A County.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to Community Close-Up. I'm your host, Sharen Skelly, and today we are talking all about Crime Stoppers. Our guest today is Morley Lymburner, and you are the chair, I suppose, of the board?
Well, I'm the vice chair.
Vice chair of the board
yes.
of Crime Stoppers, Grey Bruce. And we're going to talk all about some of the changes in the way we look at crime now from the Crime Stoppers point of view, and the need for volunteers and all sorts of things, tips, and some of the new roles that we have at Crime Stoppers here, Grey Bruce. So welcome.
Thank you.
So how long have you been a volunteer on the board at Crime Stoppers Grey Bruce?
I've been a volunteer here for about 3 years now.
Oh, and have you noticed at all any changes in the number of tips you've been getting at Crime Stoppers? Has there been an increase? Has it stayed the same?
It's been pretty consistent, I think, with any other period of time. And the incidents seem to be about the same as other years as well. We haven't noticed a big change. Some jurisdictions seem to have a lot more increase in a few things, but ours seems to be fairly consistent. In the past 2, maybe 3 years since the legalization of marijuana, our drug incidents have gone down. But it's not, actually surprisingly, it's not significant, the drop.
Well, that's interesting, because you would think when you read in the newspaper, there seems to be a lot of drug crime, a lot of theft.
Still is.
You would think that there'd be a lot more tips called in, but I guess those are just crimes that are discovered by the police without the tips.
Well, we do have an awful lot of tips with regards to drugs. It's just that we don't have the marijuana calls anymore that we used to have. We have an awful lot of calls on fentanyl, and
really?
Certainly the harder drugs. They're a real problem in our community, and right across the country. For some reason, fentanyl has just taken right off. But no, we are getting a lot more, but we're just not getting the calls we did with regards to marijuana.
And as associated with the drugs, then you have the theft and things like that.
Always is, yes.
Yeah.
If you have addicts who need the money, they'll be looking at houses to break into or cars to steal or things like that. And
we've had that in our own neighborhood.
That's for sure.
Cars, 2 cars stolen, bicycles, things like that, and all likely associated with drugs. They seem like they're not crimes of personal injury or whatever, but they are they're incidents that cause a lot of personal sort of anguish and annoyance.
Yes.
And, they may not.
As we call it, victimization.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of the times in the past, that's what we've been talking about is numbers of incidents that happened. Like our statistics reports would show, this is how many arrests we have, but we never thought of it as with regards to victimization. And, for example, $4 million worth of property, if we weren't here, we'd have $4 million worth of property that wouldn't be recovered. We'd have $50 million worth of drugs allowed to circulate in our community in the last 25 years. And that almost 2,000 criminals arrested would still be out there looking for other victims if your local Crime Stoppers hadn't been taking these anonymous calls and passing the information along. This says a lot for our communities.
Yeah, because someone steals your bike. It doesn't sound like a major crime, but somebody saved their money up to buy that bicycle, and they maybe use that bicycle to get to work.
Exactly.
They may not own a car, their choice, or maybe they can't afford it. that is a victim. And, somebody stole it maybe just to sell it for money to buy drugs.
Yes.
And that was their only reason for stealing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is a victim. So you're right. Now, another thing that you've started with Crime Stoppers is a magazine. Is it online, or can you?
Yes, it's called Tipster Magazine. You can find it online at our cstip.ca site. Have a little picture of the front there. We started in January with this as an experiment to see if it would be popular, and we've done it up in a magazine format. We found that it's very popular, and it seems to be an awful lot of people have clicked in on it, and we haven't given it an awful lot of publicity, but right now what we're concentrating on with the next few issues are missing people, cold cases that go way back. And the cover story on this one here is a young man who was shot and killed down in Ayton area back in I think it was 1992, and never did get a solution to that case. And we did find the police did find the rifles. They were from a break and enter, as we were talking earlier about, how we have a cascading issue of crime. And they found a stereo that was stolen from him in a shop a little while later, but the police couldn't trace back as to who it was that came into the pawn shop with the radio. So it's just a matter of now getting this out to the people, let them know that it's an old case that is still, the police are still looking for a solution to, and if they have any other information, it gives more detail in there as to where the guns were found. They were found on a side road not far away. And so there's an awful lot of small tips in there. There's what police call holdback information, and that is to legitimize any information they do get. They always hold back a little bit so that they can verify if this information is accurate. As time goes on, we're going to try asking the police to release a little bit more of the holdback information, and hopefully we'll be able to publish a couple of little hints in the future tipster issues. And that might help out an awful lot to jog some people's memories. The next two issues, we're going to be probably featuring a story on Lisa Moss. She was an Owen Sound girl, 25 years old, and an awful lot of information has come in over the past. Nothing has really led to the situation where the police can make an arrest. We also have Lois Hanna, which was in the Kincardine area, and she was about the same time as Lisa. She went missing. Their families are still in anguish over all of this, and sometimes I kind of wonder if this kind of an incident were sort of not really planned. If it was a murder that was committed with passion, the people who commit it would probably have an awful lot of guilt about what they've done, and they may have been suffering from that kind of guilt over the past 30 years. And you think at this stage in their life they might stop and think that, well, maybe I can give back just a little bit of information that might show the authorities where to find these people's bodies. And even finding the bodies is a great lift off of the victims, the family members, and so forth. And sometimes finding the person who perpetrated it is not nearly as necessary for them to feel relief. So it's just another way of looking at Crime Stoppers and how Crime Stoppers can help.
Yes, I remember those two, the last two crimes. They were just horrible.
And
so
if the perpetrators were there and they kind of felt a need to let us know, I mean, we're completely anonymous. They can always call us up and just say, hey, how about checking over here? I have a pretty good information. They don't even have to admit over the phone that they are the person. Just that I know where this body is, and maybe you want to help the family out.
That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. So this Tipster magazine, is this something just unique to Grey Bruce?
It's very unique, yes. No other places have anything like this. We're hoping that others might pick up on the idea
Yes.
and make it bigger. The Canadian branch, they have one called Canada Calling, and it's basically a newsletter that was designed for other Crime Stopper organizations and board members and whatnot across the country to read. Gives them information that updates them on processes and how to do fundraising and so forth. But this is the first one that actually is for public consumption.
This is a really valuable tool, and
Yeah.
it's remarkable, and it would be great if other organizations picked up on it
Yes, it would be.
and used it for their local branches, and because, I mean, you're getting more detailed information.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, if you can solve one crime using Tipster Magazine, it's worth it.
Yeah, and it's the webpage has been very good for us. And when you have information that is logged in there, it can be very repetitive.
Mhm.
And it always has the same beginning, and then it has the same ending. So when you put it in a story format, people are used to reading magazines and newspaper stories and so forth. And this is a good way to find it. We've expanded it also so that we include things like crime prevention. An awful lot of the previous occasions, we haven't thought on the victimization side of things and realized there's still a lot of people out there who are being victimized by scams, by all kinds of things. So here's a nice opportunity to write stories about that. And actually, that's one of the things that I'm looking for myself. I'm now the editor of this, and I'm kind of looking for stories from people that may be able to help out other people on how to avoid some common trips and traps that they might find in day-to-day life.
I really like the concept of thinking not only about like solving crimes, but the victim concept.
Yes.
Because really, once you have become a victim of crime, you think in a different way.
You do.
You want to think of how can I not become a victim again? How can I teach my friends how to not become victims? So that's the first thing you think of. You want to tell everybody, don't do this, don't do this. And that's a great idea.
And it's also a very feeling, nobody likes the feeling of being fragile or to be in a situation where they don't feel safe in their communities.
That's right.
And we are blessed in this area. We don't have a high crime rate, but we do have an awful lot of annoyance crimes.
Oh yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, you have all these little tiny things happening, and it just reduces everybody's feeling of security in their community.
Yes, and yeah, it's frustrating, and it makes you look suspiciously at things, and you don't like that.
No.
And you want to, and it makes you more vigilant and makes you look at your home and think, how can I become safer? Which is a good thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Video cameras are also very helpful. They become very helpful. Although when every crime happens, the police are knocking at your door. Can I look at your camera videos? And they become, they visit your house all the time. A question I always had was, where do you get the money to pay for all these tips?
Well, we don't have money coming from police, and we don't have it coming from municipalities on a regular basis. Though we do go out to some municipalities and ask them for small amounts of money during the year, and we kind of think it's important that each municipality at least contributes, either through their police committees or their town councils, a little bit of money. The money we do get isn't overwhelming. Most of our money is supplied by our volunteers. Our volunteer operation is what keeps it going. We're looking for donators all the time. We're looking for corporate donors. We're hoping that Tipster Magazine will be a nice venue for people to make donations to us in appreciation for the donations. We'll be putting in a small business card size ad of their choice, and just to thank them for the donations. And but we do rely heavily on the corporate community. We rely heavily on things like I've started up classic car runs, and this is free will offering that people make into a bucket for us. And in the last 2 years, we've done quite well with that. And actually, the car cruises are actually quite good for the people who have the old classic cars. I've drawn up a map for 3 different tours all across Grey and Bruce County, always on back roads, and it helps people see some of those back roads. So it's all appreciated by everybody. At one time, we had a baseball tournament, and that's sort of gone by the wayside now, but we have a member of the board now who's trying to get that organized. And that was the biggest fundraiser, our big fundraiser. Our largest fundraiser, however, has always been the golf tournament that we have every year. And it's back again this year in full form. It'll be on August 11th this year, and at the same golf course at Port Elgin. And we really have to thank the guys down at the Trillium Foundation and Waterloo Brewing. They're the ones who actually organize all of this, and all they do is ask for us to supply volunteers to come out for the day, and they forward all the proceeds of their money to us, and that's been our biggest fundraiser of the year.
And that's again on August.
Thursday, August 11th.
August 11th, and that's at the Saugeen Golf and Country Club.
Exactly.
And that's out by Southampton?
It's between Southampton and Port Elgin. And,
yeah, okay, yeah, right. Yeah. So you would need volunteers then.
Yes.
Not just for that, but let's talk about volunteers then in your association or organization. So what type of volunteers do you need?
All kinds of volunteers. In fact, that's what most of the operation is about. We have a lot of people who come to us and they kind of get the idea, well, I want to join Crime Stoppers so I can fight crime. Well, our job isn't fighting crime. Our job is finding the funds to support us so that the information we get in can be passed along so the crime fighters can do the crime fighting.
Right.
All of this is a grassroots organization right across the country, North America, and around the world. So we do seek volunteers who just have good ideas for making money, fundraising in the community, activities in the community. That kind of a person is who we want. We also like to have some people who may be retired and say, hey, I want something to do. And we don't give them an awful lot to do, but it's something. There's a golf tournament. We need people to show up at the car events and so forth. And yeah, there's enough things to do, and if you have that kind of interest, then by all means go to our website and cstip.ca and fill out the form, and we'll be happy to see them. We're certainly looking for talented people as well. There's other ways that you can donate. Donating your time is a big thing. One of the things I'm looking for are people who may be retired writers or budding writers who would like to write stories in the magazine. They can be either, I have 28 years experience publishing magazines, so I can assign them with a story if they want to get the experience doing that. If somebody is wishing to get into graphic design, I can certainly give them the opportunity to help design the magazine into the future. And that would be all part of the volunteer work. Certainly high school kids, some English teachers in high schools just might want to get their students involved in writing some creative writing stuff that's not fiction for a change, and submit that. So
now, who answers the phones?
I'm sorry?
Who answers the phone for the tips?
We have Drew, our ever steady only staff member, and he's always ready to pick up the phones during the day, and after hours we have a national system that takes phone calls off hours. And then Drew, our coordinator, he comes in on regular hours and he starts sorting through all of the calls that came in and passing them along to the authorities that should be given that information. He's our only staff person, and our expenses quite often are supplied to us in kind. We don't have to pay for a few things. That's kind of nice. Office expenses sometimes are covered by companies. We have, even things like
Wow.
insurance has been covered by Coframo and Wyerton, for instance.
Wow.
And we had a need to have our insurance coverage upped, and they said they'd be happy to take that off of our mind. and that was very much appreciated.
Caframo is quite a generous.
They are.
This show is called Community Close-Up, so I often talk to people doing community events, community organizations, stuff like that. And their name comes up quite a bit. Caframo donated to this, Caframo that. They are quite community-minded.
I'm quite proud of the fact that I used to work for them back in the 60s.
Really?
For a year and a half.
Yeah, and they make darn good products too.
They do. I can attest to that.
I had a fan from them, a little one that lasted forever. So
I have 6.
They do, and they have these little light candle lit fans and lights that they donate to the summer folk first aid tent station, and we have them at night to generate light at the first aid tent, and they are fantastic. So there you go.
Well, I left them back in the 60s. It's nice to see they're still there and helping our community.
There you go. And they generate employment for a lot of people in Bruce and Gray. So there you go. So another thing about Crime Stoppers, you have a board of directors. Now, if I recall, I might be wrong, but I've had this discussion with Crime Stoppers on the show before. Who decides how much money you give to the tipsters? Is it the board? Am I correct?
Yes.
How does that work?
We have a once a month meeting, and we discuss the rewards that come in, and the board members actually sit around a table and we discuss the importance of the crime, the importance of the tip, and then we determine, what kind of reward should be paid out. We're surprised that there's an awful lot of tips that come in and people don't want a reward. They just
really.
Yes, we have a lot that way now, and it seems to be more so than in the past.
Wow.
But, we do have a few, and we feel that people who do supply information like that should be rewarded. I mean, this isn't money that's going to be your retirement, but it's a little thank you for the information that was given, and certainly is enough to, I don't know if they can buy a case of beer with it, or sometimes it's actually far more than that. But
well, isn't that something someone would call in and say, I don't want a reward? I mean, that's very, very generous, and I mean, you're solving a crime with it. Wow, well, that's really...
Motivation's different. They just want to help the community and really don't care about the reward aspect of it.
Wow, that's something. So there's also an issue of you talked about hate crimes happening. And do people, I guess now we have to think that hate crimes do happen, and they are something that should be called in as tips. If you see someone committing a hate crime, that could be against another religion, against a minority of any kind, sex crime, against LGBTQ, another race, gender, whatever. So what have you got to say on that?
Well, we started this program about last November, and we are still looking for some money to support a bigger campaign for it. It is on our website. We've promoted it in our Tipster magazine. And it's basically, I think, to give the information out to the people that this is a serious issue. We're somewhat sheltered in Grey Bruce County from maybe the worst aspects of it, but it still exists. And I think some people who are victimized by this, they think, well, there's not much I can do about that. And we're trying to change that attitude, both for the victim and for the population in general, because if we have victims who are walking around who are being bullied by somebody because they don't like their sexual orientation or their color of their skin or their language, then there's a serious problem, and it has to be addressed some way. So we decided to make that a part of our anonymous tip line. People who feel that way, feel that people are going to be causing issues with regards to their race or sexual orientation, by all means, and they know who the perpetrators are, here's an anonymous place that you can send in the information. And what we're saying is, that discrimination isn't anonymous because those people are out there in the face and bullying people around. But your call into us doesn't have to be out there, and you don't have to identify yourself, and you are anonymous. The victims aren't anonymous, or the perpetrators aren't anonymous, but there's no reason why the victims and the people who know about these crimes can't be anonymous.
Excellent. So hate crimes can be reported, should be reported. Excellent.
It includes things like graffiti as well.
I was going to say, yeah, like sometimes people are writing horrible things on
Exactly.
property.
Gang tagging can be an issue, and it makes people feel bad. If they know people who gang tag all over the place, people who destroy, I think there were crosswalks that were being destroyed.
Yes, the gay pride crosswalks were destroyed, and had a video, but they weren't quite sure. I don't know if they ever did. I can't remember if there was ever any resolution to that, but yes, that's an example. But that's an example of a hate crime, sort of perpetrating hate on property. It was an image that was depicting joy and just depicting, I don't know how we would say it, but it represented gay pride. That's what it did.
Yes.
And someone damaged it. So twice. Didn't they do it twice?
I'm not sure of the quantities. I did see the video.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
So I guess we're running out of time, but we've covered a lot. And I guess what we can say in as we wrap up, you do need volunteers to do fundraising and help at your fundraising events. And one of them is the August 11th Saugeen Golf and Country Club golf tournament. That's one. But you also need people that are creative and have good ideas on fundraising. And
that's the big thing.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah.
And you also have this really great tipster publication, and we've got lots of really good writers and graphic artists and people in the community that could take direction from you and do some contributing to your tipster publication. So that could be a shout out to anybody interested in that.
For instance, somebody could be a disabled person who's just sitting at home. Well, we could use somebody to just hit the telephones and call up some businesses and say, would you like to donate? That's right. And great opportunity. So if people are interested, they can contact you via the Crime Stoppers Grey Bruce website. And that's all they have to do is Google Crime Stoppers Grey Bruce, and that'll come up. That'll come up. Or they can give us a call, 519-371-6078. So 519-371-6078. Thank you very much for joining us here on Community Close-Up, and we've got some great information. So join us here again on Rogers TV. Remember, it's your community, so take part and be safe. Wear a mask if you choose to. Get vaccinated, please, and join us again here. Bye for now, and thanks for joining us.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
On the next Veracity,
justice. That was all we were looking for.
a night of rage that still torments our city.
This was going to come back and haunt us.
Young Street Uprising premieres Sunday at 10/9 Central on City TV.
I saw a competitor tonight, and I can't wait to break his face.